This FedGov Today program is sponsored by IBM. On this edition of FedGov Today with Francis Rose, a financial management transformation happening at the IRS, the customer experience edge that's coming from AI, and Phase 3 gets underway for DHS's procurement team. Welcome to FedGov Today with Francis Rose. The Internal Revenue Service has a new vision for transforming its financial management. That vision has three main points. Teresa Hunter is Chief Financial Officer at the IRS. Teresa, welcome. Thanks for coming on the program. Before we get to those 3 points, what were the goals that you set out when you decided we need a new vision for the way that we do financial management at the agency?
Well, IRS is in an opportunity right now with its Inflation Reduction Act funding. It's a once-in-a-generation opportunity where we have the actual funding to truly transform an organization that has been underfunded for decades. IRS provides 96% of the federal funding for the government. And so an investment in IRS is an investment in the American people and the country that we have. With that being said, we are in the process of transforming IRS from foundational for its infrastructure and IT to, when you call the IRS, we're there to answer the phone. If you choose to go to the IRS and in person, that the taxpayer centers are open and someone's there to support you, or if you choose to go online and use the different tools and opportunities that we are there to support and meet the taxpayers where they're at. And as part of a support organization within IRS, we are also in a transformation and modernization point in our journey along what we're doing in CFO in the financial management area. And so the three pillars that you mentioned is our strategic vision that we have within the CFO organization to help get us there, which is the modernization, the strategic advisor, and the employee experience. All
right, let's take each of those in turn. What does modernization mean just within the CFO organization at the agency? What are you modernizing, and how are you going about modernizing it, Teresa?
Well, as I mentioned, IRS had been starved for funding for decades, and with that comes a lot of things where we haven't been able to have the proper resources, we haven't had the staffing, we haven't had the opportunity to do the appropriate trainings, those things to keep pace with the changes that happen in the financial management world. And so, with that being said, we are in the process of looking at our processes and seeing, they're decades old. Mm-hmm. So let's look at that and see where are there opportunities to streamline. Are there opportunities to eliminate? How can we operate in a more agile fashion as we have different mandates that come down, from the government? We're expected to execute, and how can we execute in a mindful way where we're not, overburdening our staff and overworking them? So let's look at modernization from the standpoint of using technology to the full extent possible, mm-hmm. and not to the extent where we're just using technology or robotic process automation for the sake of automation, mm-hmm. but we're truly taking an end-to-end look at our processes and seeing, what technology makes sense. This may be a SharePoint, this may be a Power Query, this may be an RPA that makes sense, or, is it a right for opportunity for Gen AI, those types of things. And so it's a matter of figuring out what is the right opportunity where our individual processes are streamlined and working as efficient as possible.
The second point in your vision is becoming a strategic advisor, or reinforcing that concept within the agency. What does that look like, and who and where are you advising in the organization?
Yeah, so it's been said with CFO, how do you go from, transactional base and going from back office to front office to have a seat at the table? I will say at IRS, I do feel that we have that seat at the table, that we are a trusted advisor across the organization. The commissioner on down looks to us to provide insight and guidance when it comes to budget and financial management information. So to me, that's a burden of responsibility that I want to make sure that I am providing senior leadership the right answer and in a way that they can make the right decisions. So I don't think the right questions are being asked and the right decisions aren't being made if you aren't able to provide that data and that information timely and in a way that's easily understood. Mm-hmm. And so part of that strategic advisor journey that we are on is to have real-time data where we're able to pull that data into a visualization where, whether it's Tableau or some other tool, Power BI, like those types of things where we can actually, look at a dashboard and be able to make the right decision. We have an HCO director that is extremely passionate about the Federal Employee Viewpoint Survey, and she is making a huge push to make sure that the employee voices are being heard. And if you respond, we will take action to make sure that we are addressing each employee's issues. And so we were able in the CFO organization in the past when we would get those surveys, it was page after page of looking through, and then you try and figure out what are the themes that are running through. And now we have a dashboard where in one view I can look at basically a heat map of the questions and see exactly which question is the pain point for the organization or what organization is having across the line that's having significant concerns. And that gives an opportunity to dig deeper, right? Where we can actually use that information to now understand better, have the conversations, and have the opportunity to just improve our organization as a whole.
You referenced your Chief Human Capital Officer, Tracy DeMartini. She was on the show, I want to say 8 months or so ago.
Oh, yeah.
And anybody that knows her knows that passionate is just one word that people use to describe her. The third element kind of buttresses what you just talked about, and that's employee experience. As you are trying to map out what you're doing regarding employee experience, how much of your focus is on the Chief Financial Officer's shop, the Financial Management Office, and how much of it is helping people like Tracy and others across the agency with the entire employee experience across the IRS?
I would say there's a balance. So for internally with CFO organization in general, we are focusing primarily on making sure our folks have the right skill set. So I want to ensure that their profession doesn't outgrow them, that they have the tools, the opportunities, the trainings necessary in order to function and thrive in their job, more job satisfaction, and putting the tools in the hands of the user. And what that means, we have the ability where any employee in IRS can have a citizens developer license when it comes to robotic process automation. We have 60 of those within the CFO organization. A couple years ago, we had one person, and so we're really starting to grow that mindset, change that culture where we plan. We think, how can technology be leveraged within our organization to improve overall processes? And so, with that being said, we're really focusing on that journey for the employee. We want to empower them. We want to make sure the employee has a voice. They're the ones close to the information, close to the processes. They know the problem, the pain points. And so giving that free space where they can raise their hand to leadership and say, this isn't working, or is there any opportunity you can help here? We have taken an approach where providing that right resources for the employees, because if you're busy in your day-to-day job, you're not going to have time to step back and think, how can I modernize my process? How, and then let me develop those skills on how to fix it, and then create this, fancy new report that's going to solve my problems. So what we have done is created an arm within the IRS for our Financial Modernization and Technology group. And that group is really focused on modernizing the CFO organization and being that resource of SMEs, where they have various expertise and suggestions and can help do the legwork to put that new report or whatever the case may be into the hands of the user, where it's an improvement into their process. And so, that's what we've been doing within the CFO. We certainly partnered with HCO on recruiting events, trying to spread the word. We're looking, for experienced federal financial accountants that can help with our reporting expertise, those types of things, and then in general partnering with HCO on what is the appropriate amount of funding, what areas do we need the people, those types of things where we're having that joint conversation of properly planning and also providing different opportunities for employees for recruiting and retention, and providing different venues of employee satisfaction through that type of opportunities.
It's great to have you in the program, Teresa. Thanks very much for your time today.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You can read more about financial management transformation that's underway at the IRS on today's show page at fedgovtoday.com. Up next, the customer experience edge that's coming from AI. FedGov Today with Francis Rose continues in a moment. Here's Matt Mandrock, head of public sector at Zoom, from the ATO and Cloud Security Summit presented by Carasoft.
The legacy systems you can't scale because they're not FedRAMP authorized. So in that, it really hampers the opportunity. And as they make investments and look at the future, you look at what agencies go across and they add in our investment we're going to make now has to go for the next 5 to 7 years. Well, those investments they've made in the past, maybe coming at the tail end of that 5 to 7 years, now they have to look at how do we look at this differently? How does this fit into the workflow that we have? Our employees are doing things differently than they did 5, 7 years ago. It's not where everybody's coming in the office. It's a hybrid environment, and really allows them, the agencies, to take that opportunity to take these new systems, these FedRAMP authorized cloud platforms that are secure. You go through FedRAMP moderate or through a JAB process. Really a great opportunity then for them to look at technologies replacing these legacy systems to create that next environment where they can start to take getting those FedRAMP authorized platforms in, and then looking at the authorization for opportunity for them to create automation.
Welcome back. The General Services Administration's planning a training series for federal employees on artificial intelligence. GSA's AI Community of Practice will lead the training. The COP says it's, quote, instrumental in guiding the practical implementation of responsible AI within the federal government. Paul Dommel is a partner in the federal tax and finance consulting practice at IBM. Paul, thanks very much for joining me. How are you seeing artificial intelligence being used across agencies to help with customer experience, to help with some of the other tasks that agencies are up against?
Yeah, so we see it used in 3 key areas. Support for interaction with citizens and taxpayers. We see it being used to improve processes that are mission-driven, and we see it being used in back office, so improving finance, improving HR, and improving even things like IT optimization.
Teresa talked a few minutes ago about examining business processes. How do you see agencies doing that? How do you see them successfully analyzing the things that they're doing to determine which technologies will help them and which tasks they can maybe streamline or eliminate?
So actually, interestingly, earlier this year we had a couple of roundtables. It was kicked off by the Commissioner of the IRS, Commissioner Werfel, and we involved tax agencies from 8 or 10 countries around the world, private sector, and some think tanks. We really sort of worked through the process of, hey, how does this AI affect taxpayers? How does it affect your mission processes of collecting taxes? And so we use that to really kind of ferret out what are some of the real opportunities in government. Mm-hmm. And the things that we came up with were pretty interesting. So on the taxpayer services side, it's things like, you know, the ability to be 24/7, to respond to questions, you know, AI and chatbots, the ability to do a better job with call center. Some really interesting other things came up also, of using generative AI to help to create really fast educational materials, particularly as we move to kind of a world where it's an increasing number of small businesses and a gig economy where people need help thinking about taxes in an entirely new way. Mm-hmm.
What are the opportunities that you see that maybe are underutilized, where AI could help and agencies haven't maybe maximized its potential yet?
So we're doing a project with the Department of Veterans Affairs, and it's the largest intelligent automation project program in government. And it basically takes all the forms that are coming into the mailroom, and it is a process that at the VA took about 30 days to get from when the document arrived to when it got to a point where somebody could look at it and make a decision. We took that process using a combination of AI and intelligent automation from 30 days to 30 minutes. And in the process, took about 900 out of 1,000 people out of that touching a paper process, put them into different roles where they're helping to faster decide on the outcomes of cases. So it's an awesome opportunity to really improve citizen service and, do better for the agency as well.
And it sounds like it's really getting at the core of what the President's management agenda talks about moving employees from lower value to higher value work.
Absolutely, and the way that we can do that is, by empowering them with tools that they use. Like AI isn't about replacing people, it's about giving them tools to be able to do their job better. In doing that, we can advance them into better roles that have higher value to citizens and taxpayers.
We have about 30 seconds left. Paul, how do you advise agencies to make sure that they're doing the things that they want to do and accomplishing what they want to accomplish, measuring success, I guess?
Well, all of this starts from what are my mission objectives, where do I have performance challenges, and what are the opportunities to improve to meet those challenges. And if we can keep it close to how does it improve citizen service, how does it improve processes, how does it reduce costs, we can keep people on target.
What should agencies be doing now to prepare for some of these things that they might need to do 6 months, a year, 2 years in the future?
So it's a really good question. There's a huge trust gap in government, and it's getting larger. During COVID, we saw the trust in government, and it's not just government, but large institutions in general fall. In the last several months, we've seen that continue to fall. And what I see is to restore trust in government, focusing on the interactions that we have with government, that you and I directly have with government, is where you start to rebuild trust, where you're not for hours on a call waiting for an answer. You get the answers to the questions that you want quickly. And I think that's an important part of focusing and restoring trust in government.
Paul, it's great to have you on the program. Thanks for your time today.
It was really fun. Thank you.
You can read more about AI across the federal government on today's show page at fedgovtoday.com. Up next, Phase 3 getting underway for DHS's procurement team. FedGov Today with Francis Rose continues in a moment. Here's Kevin Green, Chief Technology Officer for Public Sector at Open Text Cybersecurity from the ATO and Cloud Security Summit presented by Carahsoft.
I think visibility for me is the most important thing when you start talking about things like zero trust. You have to assume you're compromised, and elevating visibility becomes a key priority, I think, for organizations. I think it's part of a long list of things, but probably one of the most important things in disrupting threat actor capabilities, right? So if you can get early warning signals and signs of threat actor behavior and activities, I think you can be more responsive and do a lot of different things to disrupt their activities. So I do think learning from that is a way that I always try to help our customers put in place a more robust visibility or elevating visibility to be more responsive to cyber attacks.
Welcome back. The Department of Homeland Security's Procurement Innovation Lab is entering Phase 3 of its life cycle. One of the PIL's leaders says this phase will have a heavy emphasis on use cases. Scott Simpson is Digital Transformation Lead at the PIL. Scott, welcome. Thanks for coming on the program. What use cases are you looking at in this phase of your development?
So in the first few phases of the PIL, we had a lot of emphasis on individual procurements. As we move forward, we're looking more on the emphasis on the procurement professionals as a whole and how we change their cultural mindset. Because for a long time, we've had this cultural mindset of risk avoidance. I don't want to do anything that's risky. And instead of risk avoidance, we want to go to risk management. And that is a wholesale change in the way that the acquisition workforce has been thinking for 20, 30, 40 years. And it's not done on an individual case-by-case basis. It's done as a whole through everyday on-the-job training, everyday continuous training, and from the start when you're training your new folks that come on board. And so that's where we're kind of taking a look at that phase 3 and what that's going to look like.
When you go through these use cases and you go back to folks and say, okay, this is what happened, and how much of that change is just reinforcing, see, this didn't turn out so bad. This turned out okay, even though we took this risk. Is that an important element of what you're doing?
Oh yeah, for sure. That's a great element of it. So after every team that we coach, we get feedback. And we don't just get feedback by sending out a survey. We actually talk to the folks that were involved in the procurement, and we find out what was effective, what was ineffective. And then we have kind of a retrospective with the team where we talk about that. And it's kind of like the government's debrief, for lack of a better word, right? And it is a great learning opportunity. And I would say 90% of the feedback we give is, hey, you can do this, lean forward into this. And there's only maybe 5 or 10% that's, hey, we need to adjust this a little bit. But there is a lot. And that can really boost somebody's confidence. Because when teams come to the Procurement Innovation Lab and they want to try something new, there's a lot of hesitancy there. And so they might want to try just one thing that they're really passionate about. But after they get that confidence there from that one thing, they are off to the races and they're just running to try something new again.
You said you get feedback on what was effective and what wasn't. Are there common themes among what people tell you was effective and wasn't, or does it differ depending on the types of procurement or the people involved and so on?
You know, one of the most common themes that I get is, especially when I'm talking to a company that bid or quoted on the work, the most common theme I get is, thanks so much for talking to us afterwards. They are so just enheartened by having someone listen to how the process went, because we haven't taken the time to do that before. We've given them lots of feedback, but we've never asked them for their feedback. And so there's a whole lot of positivity around that, and I think that positivity is really great for building a new culture again, where we have a relationship with the other side. We've got a pretty good relationships among ourselves with our program managers and our contracting officers and everyone else, but when we get to that other side and the companies that we work with every day that are really helping us to meet our government mission, that relationship's been a little broken, as we're trying to fix it a little bit. You
wrote recently about some of the ways that you define success in the transformation realm. Consult the end user, plan with the end in mind, use the question, what do you hope to accomplish today? What does that look like from the perspective of the people that you're working with inside the PIL and inside the procurement community more broadly in DHS? Yeah, and so that starts with what we call a brainstorming session. It's where everyone gets together, and that's a really important piece, that it's not just a couple of people, it's as many people as possible, that way everyone's on the same page. And we talk to them about, what are you looking to buy? What's your goal here? I love to ask, what are your hopes and what are your fears? Because that really sets the tone for how their procurement is going to go. Maybe they're really hopeful that, like your previous guest was talking about, they can use a generative AI or something like that to speed something up. But maybe they're fearful that they're going to get a lot of quotes or a lot of proposals and that they're going to be evaluating for a long time. Those really lean into how we coach the team and how we begin to talk to them about that cultural change that is ongoing even as we're having that brainstorming. Because for so long, you know, someone would slide a piece of paper across my desk, that would be my purchase request, and I'd get to work on it, and maybe later on I'd call them and say, hey, it's done. Whoa, it's done. You never even talked to me. But we want to start changing that, so we're building relationships. And it's kind of funny that, you know, here we are in the 21st century, and we're talking about building relationships with people after we had this great conversation about, you know, building the next generation of AI. What does the follow-on process look like? How does it work 6 months, 8 months, a year out, where you go back and say, okay, we gave you this coaching, you're now equipped with these tools, let's see how folks did it actually using them? Yeah, it's a great question. So from a data perspective, 1 year out, we always track how well is the performance going. Because we want to know, not just whether we met your expectations at the procurement process and how fast you are awarded, whatever else. We want to know, how's the performance of the contract going? So 1 year out, we do a brief survey to find out how it's going. But a lot of our information gathering is a lot more informal. A lot of the people we talk to, they become part of our network. And so every second Wednesday of the month, we have what's called the Procurement Innovation Neighborhood. And that's an opportunity kind of for our alumni to come back to the office with us and kind of tell us, how's it going?
And we get to hear from them. Oh, well, this was the impact. And we see some really interesting things, and we have a lot of really great discussions. And the other thing that it's doing is that it's keeping them within the family of that learning mindset. So at the Procurement Innovation neighborhood, we're not just kind of gabbing, we're also sharing learning, because getting into that learning zone is really critical to how you perform. If we are just in the performance zone and we're just kind of doing our jobs, our performance will stay flat. But if we can, even once a month, once a week, step into the learning zone, that's when we see our performance start to go up. So we want to keep people in that learning zone, get them back in that learning zone, so that they have a learning culture, not just one of, hey, here's the paperwork, I got to do it.
We have less than 30 seconds left, Scott. Is there a way to measure that learning culture? Is there a way to know it's working the way we want it to?
Yeah, every year we do what's called the Procurement Culture Survey, the PCS. That goes out to the DHS acquisition workforce, and we measure innovation, we measure learning, we measure culture, and we measure mission to find out whether what we're doing is having an effect. And to the extent that we've had over the last 9 years, we do see a positive trend in going up in learning and going up in innovation.
Scott, it's great to have you on the program. Thanks for your time. You can read more about digital transformation at DHS on today's show page at fedgovtoday.com. FedGov Today continues in just a moment. Here's Bethany Blackwell, Vice President of Sales at Carahsoft, from the ATO and Cloud Security Summit presented by Carahsoft.
I've been doing this for a long time, and 10, 15 years ago when we first, started talking about cloud and the platform, it wasn't, something that all our customers were super interested in. And now, we're not standardized, I would say, on cloud, but it's a huge part of our go-to-market strategy for a lot of our customers right now. And they're solving a lot of mission-critical problems using these tools. And so when they see that the tools that they already owning have made improvements, have made developments that a lot of times doesn't cost any extra money for them even to be able to utilize, they're quick to jump on it. They're following the deployments of these new technologies within the platforms that they have, especially when it comes to AI. I think that's the big one that we keep seeing. A lot of our cloud partners are developing and rolling out new AI features, and our customers are excited to use those. And I think with this new change from OMB, they're going to be able to use those even more quickly.
Welcome back. In today's event spotlight, more than 100 federal government speakers from more than 24 agencies will speak at the 15th annual Billington Cybersecurity Summit. It's coming to the Reagan Building September 3rd through 6th. The speaker list includes the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General C.Q. Brown, the National Cyber Coordinator, Harry Coker, the commander of U.S. Cyber Command, General Timothy Hawk, the federal CIO, Claire Martirana, and a lot more. It is free for federal employees. You can read more and register at fedgovtoday.com/events. FedGov Today TV returns next Sunday morning at 10:30. I'm Francis Rose. I'll see you then. Thanks very much for watching.